So I'm Mohato Lekena, and I guess I'm a computer scientist, a designer, and a musician, which is to say that I use computer science to design new musical instruments, essentially. And what I'm gonna be talking about today is live synthesis, as you said. It's like I'm gonna talk about the idea of ideas and how different parts of your life can cross-pollinate each other to bring out something new in a way that you couldn't expect, way you didn't expect. And I'm gonna be telling this I'll be talking about ideas within the structure of telling you how I did my research for the past few years. Um, so, yeah, let me start with talking about technology. So, how I got into technology is that I was essentially an only child. I'm the second of four kids, but my sister is 7 years older than me. So, I had a lot of time alone. And my brothers, my younger brothers, are twins, and they're a lot cuter than me. So, they had all my parents' attention. So, I had a lot of time by myself. And I remember whenever my parents asked me, like, Mohato, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said an inventor. I don't know what that meant. I just thought it was like smashing things together, making something new. I figured that I would go to high school, do the invention subjects, go to varsity, get a BSc inventor, and then stay at home. But as I grew up, that became more and more specific. I thought maybe engineering at first, electrical engineering, and then later on I fell into computer science. Um, but as I did computer science more and more, I figured that there's like a problem with the idea of computer science by itself. Computer science is a pure science. It's like learning how to do computer science is like learning how to use every tool in the toolbox. You can screw with a screwdriver, you can bang with a hammer, but that doesn't teach you how to make anything. It doesn't teach you how to be a mechanic. It doesn't teach you how to be a builder of houses. And this is something that my supervisor at the time also agreed with. He thought that when you have technology for technology's sake, you start making things faster and smarter, but you don't know if that's better because it's not really enriching people. Is it things that people are going to use, or is this like a smaller version of something that people never wanted in the first place? Um, and as you said, I'm into music as well. And when I started looking at the idea of music and music technology, I saw the same thing was happening. Things were moving in a direction that technologists were taking it, but this wasn't necessarily a direction that things had to go in. Let me give you an example. So I am into percussion. I like percussion a lot. And I was looking at drum sequences and synthesizers. So this is the echo computer rhythm. This was very hip in 1972. It was huge, but this big. It was bulky, and the way it worked is that it had a row of like each row is an instrument, and when you have a button pressed, that will make the sound in that row play when the time comes, right? So this was made in 1972, and a lot of the design of the computer rhythm was defined by the technology they had at the time, right? So they couldn't make it smaller. This was the size it was, and they did the best they could do in 1972 to make a drum sequencer. But let's fast forward a while. Let's go to 2006, and this is a monome. Now the monome's pretty hip in 2006. A lot of people use it. But if you look at it, it's a similar drum sequencer. You're going from left to right. You're putting down buttons in a way that'll sequence the sounds in the exact same way as the computer rhythm. Really funny. But if you keep going forward, this is an iPad app from 2014. Touchscreen phones. So you have multi-touch technology. You have a processor that'll fit in the palm of your hand. In 72, computers took up entire rooms. Yet we're still using the same fundamental principles to design new software. It's really crazy. I started thinking about like, how did this happen? And why was this the case when you consider someone like Iannis Xenakis? So Xenakis was a crazy composer. And that, what you see right now, is the score for a piece of his music. That is the music written down. He created a system in 1977 that allowed you to draw music and it would interpret that as sound. That's crazy. Well, to me it is, and it makes like some scary good music. Scary good is very good for me. So think about it, this is 1977. He was using a drawing table. It was huge. And this is what we're doing in 2014 with multi-touch technology. We're copying systems that came out in 1972. So I started thinking about the idea of Xenakis and looking into his life, and I figured out what Xenakis was doing that a lot of these computer scientists here weren't doing. Xenakis was not any one thing. He was not a musician, he was an inventor. An inventor in the same sense that I thought of as a kid. See, he started off as a pure mathematician, and then he moved into becoming an architect. And when he was doing architecture, he was drawing a lot. And then he started making music. He wanted to draw music. And so he came up with this. Xenakis was not any one thing alone. He wasn't just a computer scientist. He had an array of skills and sets of knowledge that he could tap into in order to create something that hadn't been done before. Um, and that really blew my mind. And I thought this is a crazy thing. So I figured, all right, I'll take Xenakis' lead. What if I did the same thing for technology? What if I took the idea of drum sequences and applied a multidisciplinary thinking? What if you could draw drums patterns, you know? I figured, let me do this, it'll be a great idea. Everyone will love it, right? Well, yeah, sort of. So in the end, it's a multi-touch thing. It's on the Windows phone and allows you to draw sequences of drums. I can show it to you guys later if you want. But what I found, and the software was meant to be new. It was meant to be something people hadn't seen before, and it was meant to allow you to create rhythms in an ungridded, unstructured way. And what we found was pretty interesting when we gave it to people. Is that I figured that I thought that musicians would love it and non-musicians would hate it because we said it was two people. But what we found was that people who were like really like extreme novices when it comes to music loved it, and they could create new music that surprised them. And people who were really experienced with different types of music, so they had a lot of experience in many different types of music, also loved it. But there was this weird middle section of people who'd used technology once or twice, made one or two songs, and they hated it. They couldn't create something new because they couldn't bend the interface into something that they knew already. And that for me sort of tied back into this idea of it being an inventor, this idea of Xenakis, and that's, if you think about what Xenakis was, is that he was an expert in one thing that was always a novice in something else. And this idea of always being a novice allowed him to see things in a fresh and new way. It allowed him to create something that was bigger than the sum of its parts. And I feel like he found a good way to quickly become the best thing in the world at something. The easiest way to become the best thing in the world. And I feel that's through specialization, you know? It's like I'm not the best computer scientist you'll meet. I'm not the best designer you'll know. I'm not the best musician you know. But as a computer scientist, designer, musician, I'm the only one you know. Therefore, I'm the best. And I feel like that's such an easy way to get things done. It's an easy way to become the only person in the field, therefore the best person in the field. And when you apply that to every aspect of your life, then you can synthesize your entire life into a whole that makes sense. I think multidisciplinary thinking is the way forward. People don't need to be any one thing. You don't need to be your job. And your job doesn't need to be everything that you are. That's not how you should be defining yourself. And I know you're probably thinking like, that's real tough though. Does that mean I gotta go start learning maths and I gotta start learning this and the next thing? No, you can just collaborate. And that's what I found. That's what I've been doing. And through collaborations, you can keep yourself fresh because working with people is a quick way to see what a field looks like. And it's a quick way to keep yourself in tune and a quick way for you to see what gaps there might exist in research or gaps might exist in music or what gaps might exist in knowledge in general. So Albert Einstein saw knowledge as a circle. Now, when you know very little, the circumference of that circle is very small. But the bigger the circle becomes, the more things you know you don't know, if that makes any sense. And the more you know you don't know, the more you can see where you should be learning, and the more you can then apply yourself. But I want to take that one step further, and I'll say the more then you can see you can apply knowledge from one side of the circle to the other side of the circle. You can apply knowledge from the top to the bottom. You can apply knowledge from music into computer science, apply knowledge from design into music. And this is something that I've been trying to do for a while. So I formed a creative collective called GlowLDB with my two flatmates, and the one guy's I'm a computer scientist. My other flatmate was a designer and a web designer, and the third flatmate was a classical musician, classically trained musician, and we got together and started collaborating on a bunch of cool projects that I find cool, and I found that with them and through this collaboration, I've been able to create things that I would never have been able to do before, things that are scary good, essentially. And one of the proudest things I've done with them is a while ago at TEDxUCT we were asked to do a remix of some of just a remix. That's what they said. They said they gave us all of the music from other TEDx's, and they said do a remix. But then through collaboration, we were able to create something that was visual because of my one flatmate, something that was responsive to music because of my computer science, and something that took the sounds and into an incredible new direction because of my classically trained, flatmates. And I think I want to finish off with that video. I want to finish off with that performance because I think it's a great end product to this idea of synthesizing different parts of your life into a single thread. So so I'm gonna say goodbye, and the video is gonna start up very soon. Thank you, and we'll take questions later.